after passing the exam, I'm a Bixby Level 1 installer. It's been a little bit of a couple-month road of study, um, deliberation through the ITSM, which is the handbook, kind of like a study guide with all kinds of theory as well as tangible things that you need to know to be able to work in the ICT field. Yeah, so after being, now, a couple weeks out of examination, I was hired and I've been working on the job, pulling cable and installing network jacks and phones and all kinds of fun stuff that I've been preparing for a couple months now. And I don't want to go into too much granular stuff about the test or the certification or the exam specifics, but I do want to speak more to some of the tools that I end up using. By no means am I like some super pro. I've only been a week out. I've spent 50 hours on the job and mostly observing other professionals in their workflow and seeing some pain points, seeing how they overcome certain obstacles. And I wanted to highlight a couple of things that I picked up that added value. Bottom line, they added value. And I'll continue to kind of use them going forward. Some of the things that are hurdles in pushing cable through a hospital system that has patients walking around and professionals needing to be able to gain access to certain parts of their department means that you kind of got to go in there kind of like ninjas. You got to go in there making sure that HEPA tents are up, there's not debris that's going to fall and end up, polluting like the work area since it's sensitive. It is a hospital, so getting into like the above ceiling tiles, you always have to make sure that you only have one open at a time and you're very laboriously kind of pushing cable from push point to entry point through sleeves, through fire stop methods, and then to the destination point where you end up dropping these cables. But I say all that to say this. It's been a really cool experience. The reason why I got into it, I'd been working in a data center at another hospital for a number of years. And, it was kind of this looming feeling, not even so much a feeling, a fact, that they were saying that at some point they're going to close down the data center. There are not a lot of hospital systems that are maintaining their own equipment, storage, and otherwise on site anymore because of cost. Eventually, my job was in jeopardy. I got to a chance to really kind of sit back and reflect and say, well, what do I do to kind of secure myself in my career for the future? What are the things that I'm really interested in? Where can I add value? And how can I get like some extra exercise? Because sitting in a data center for prolonged periods of time, just being sedentary is just not healthy. Any sedentary jobs, even though there is a component of lifting and moving and working around like the data center to be able to make examinations of equipment and whatnot, it's not exactly the most rigorous of exercise. So I say all that to say this: I switched careers and I got a new job. Right? There are a couple things that are really critical to making sure that you're able to do this stuff well. And one is team communication, and the other is visibility. So, in terms of visibility, when you get inside of the ceiling tiles, it is very, very difficult to be able to navigate exactly where your cables need to be able to go. There's a lot of existing infrastructure that's already there that may or may not be, done by refined standards. It could just be done by in-house like IT. Nothing against IT folks, but they're not necessarily trained to be able to understand structured cabling systems and the methodologies that are employed by those standards, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, in learning more about structured cabling systems, I had become aware of a little bit of friction that comes between ITC professionals and IT professionals. And, back and forth, misunderstandings about what their jobs are. And I don't want to get into the middle of that. Being a person that's come from an entry-level IT background and I'm in an entry-level ITC background, I just want all the parts to really work well together, just as much as I want all the people to work well together. There's so much information, so much knowledge that can be exchanged between the two. And there's so much overlap that comes from like theory as well as the nuts and bolts of what we're working with. It's just that our expectations are a little bit different. But again, needless to say, I want to focus less on those things and more about some like the tools that I ended up using that I really kind of thought were really powerful. So you need to be able to see where the cables are going, and it's dark up there, dusty, just like fiberglass and hot pipes. While I was up there, like even just like a week out, I don't even know if you can really see this. I have like already burned myself, I have all kinds of little battle scars. I got to get used to, navigating the mechanical, the plumbing, the HVAC components that are up there. So even while I'm dressing cables or putting things over top cable supports or J-hooks, you got to be safe, so I'm working on that. But you got to see what you're doing. So one of the tools that I found really, really helpful, all right, and it's not super expensive either. It's made by Husky. It's the K60241. It's a 5-volt, 3-watt output. It's like a light, basically. It's a, LED light, has a magnet on the end of it. Click it to places, and you're able to see what you're doing. It has different modes where you can be able to shine kind of like a direct lamp, and you could also like put in like a full like LED stream on 2 different levels. Super good. Like whenever you're going up into the ceilings, you're usually working with someone else. So the 2 of you guys using both of these lights, you can shine them in a capacity where you both can kind of like see what's going on, be able to do the handoff of the cable, whether it's through sticks or whatever methodology you're using. But the bottom line is you have to be able to cover that distance, and being able to see is critical. And I found that this tool works really, really well. Are there more heavy-duty tools that have higher output, that are beefier, use bigger batteries? Yes, but I've just found that these are so convenient because they like use one of those 1860 batteries that's inside, which is, I believe, user replaceable. Yeah, it looks like that magnet screws off and you can kind of access it in the bottom. So at some point, if that battery ever does die, I'll be able to switch it out. But yeah, it's not exactly industrial grade. It's not made for outdoors. It's not weather rated. But for what I'm doing inside of the hospitals, I don't really need it to be. So, and I know, yeah, I've been pretty happy with it so far. So I got 2 of them. They're only like $20 at like Home Depot. They've dropped a few times. I was a little scared, but they're still going pretty strong. Magnets are still great. All right, so 2 things I've been using. Other things, communication. You need to be able to see the stuff that's happening in the ceilings, but you also need to be able to communicate with your team. It's super important. In the first couple days, it was a combination of yelling out and using walkies. And, as a kid, I've used walkie-talkies, but I've never used them in a professional capacity where I had to be able to use the language and the directions in the short code that would get things done. And I had to learn a little bit about that independently, and now employing it on the job makes things super, super smooth. But the one issue I did have is, since a lot of times my hands are full, I'm either pulling something or redirecting something or having to hold something, having to tie something off, having to cut something with another tool, having to go to your waist to be able to pull that walkie to be able to tell someone something quickly in real time isn't always super convenient when it's just stuck there on your hip. So the systems that my team at my company uses are from a company called Samcom. And I didn't know anything about Samcom, but apparently Samcom is a Chinese brand company, and they make UHF GMRS walkie-talkies. This one happens to be the FPCN30a, and I got one for myself. I mean, you may be thinking, well, if your company supplies them, why'd you go and buy one? I don't know, it's just really curious, and I thought maybe in my photography business for events or what have you might be something that I could use if I have, you know, an assistant with me, instead of having to run and, you know, talk about what our plan is in real time. I'd just be able to communicate. So, you know, the gadget guy in me also was kind of like intrigued that, oh, they have all the setup. They're using actually the FPCN10a units. So like the screen is a little bit different, but right out the gate, I just put it right on the channel that they ended up using, and it just worked. It worked really, really, really well. I was able to get clear transmissions back and forth, so long as you just observe like normal, like not always intuitive, but normal like walkie-talkie, like, you know, understood practices. Press, hold PTT button for a second, let it rock, and then start talking. I know often people end up just rushing a little bit too quickly to be able to say what message, and sometimes being a little bit too long-winded, which, you know, I'm guilty of from time to time. But yeah, press, talk, hold for a second, say your message, introduce yourself so they know who's talking, and then note who, you know, you're looking to be able to send this message to if it's not global to the entire team, and get concise and right to the point, you know. Bottom line is, love working with walkie-talkies, so much fun. But I got an add-on. There is a wireless earbud system for walkie-talkies that Samsung makes, or Samcom. Why did I say Samsung, right? Samcom makes. All right, so basically, it works kind of like this. There is a Bluetooth module that connects through the Kenwood 2-pin system. You power that on. It also has kind of like a lapel that has a microphone on it, and it has an ear tube, kind of like those like surveillance, kind of like audio devices that you see with secret agents and police and, you know, law enforcement using. But I get why they use them. I mean, granted, the ones that they use, I believe, are 2-strand, meaning like they have one where they have the push to talk button at their fingertips. I don't need that. All I need to do is be able to just touch the push to talk here briefly while my hands are, you know, a little bit full, talking to the microphone, good to go. I'm telling you, this thing has like been a game changer for me. So instead of having the anxiety of wanting to grab frantically for my walkie, not understanding what first came in, and having a lot of that audio spread to people and interrupting them in the workplace, I can just have it in my ear in real time, adjust the volume, make sure I'm on the right channels, I'm secure, I'm getting information in real time. The microphone works really, really well. I haven't had any battery or disconnection issues. I saw some feedback in the comments on Amazon when I bought it that some people were a little suspicious about the build quality. It is plasticky, you know, but I tell you, the walkie itself is really, really well built, and so long as you're not bumping it into anything, I think you should be able to, you know, fare okay. You know, I'll just have to be a little careful with it. It is a little plasticky. Things that I wish that the push to talk button would be more where the Samcom branding is, and be a little bit more conspicuous. You know, if it was just a little bigger, it would make it easier. It's right near where the power button is, and mistakenly once today I did end up pressing the power button and disconnecting it, which was not a big deal. I just pressed and held it and it reconnected, and I was able to be right back into the channel and giving and receiving instruction. But yeah, well, let me just throw it on real quick so you can kind of see what it looks like. I do have my lapel mic here, so it's a little bit in the way. I have a polo shirt that has like a sunglass holder, so it makes it kind of convenient for it to be able to work that way. There's a small clip that you can connect either to your collar or to an undershirt if it's under. This part goes over the ear, and boom, you're connected. With the unit powered on, press and hold the power button for 3 seconds. You start to see it blinking. It's in like a seeking mode. You do the same thing with the power button here. I hear it say power on. Now it said connected. Now we're good to go. As soon as I press to talk here, it's engaged and it's activating transmission mode on the Walkie. Just that simple. You even see like the indicator lights when the push to talk button is depressed. Is there a little bit of latency? Not any more so than using any other Bluetooth device, but the convenience factor is like above anything. And it's not like we're talking about duplex communication here. You're just gonna press, hold, open the channel, and just start chatting. And then you let go. So no one's gonna know the difference. So long as you're within about a good, maybe 5 inches of the microphone, you're not speaking outward, just, you know, tuck it a little bit, say what you need to say, and then let it go. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. It's not exactly the cheapest thing, but I could tell you what, I've seen way more expensive walkies, like back in the day, several hundreds of dollars just for one set. And this was, you know, markedly less than that. You know, the headset was just about, like, no, not even just about, it was a little bit more expensive than the Walkie itself. But altogether, for under $200, you get a great setup, really convenient to work, very small form factor. You're not gonna have to interrupt, you know, or be interrupted by a whole bunch of wires so much. There's just one little tube that goes to your ear, push the talk button. So yeah, first week on the job, great experience, using all the typical tools of the trade. We're not gonna go through all of that, but some of my favorites that I were using today: illumination with the Husky, communication with Samcom. 10 out of 10, I definitely recommend. For price to performance ratio is very, very, very high output. Yeah, and it brings out the little kid in you that just love to play with walkie-talkies and have fun. I'm that guy. Well, signing out. Thank you guys.